Picture this, you're at a work conference surrounded by international professionals all speaking in English. The attention turns to you and you get the inevitable question, what do you do? You want to make sure that your English is in top shape to answer that question, because we all know that being able to talk about your job in English allows you to make connections, seize opportunities, and advance your career. Watch this video now and find out if you are correctly able to talk about your job in English. Are you able to talk about your job title, your sector, your company, your work arrangement, your schedule? Are you? Take a look and find out now. You might think, saying my job title in English, that's easy, but you would be surprised how many people make little mistakes here. So there's two basic structures you can use to present your job title. I am or I'm, a, then your job title. For example, I'm a data analyst. Or this, I work as a, and then your job title. For example, I work as a content creator. Now be careful, because what I've seen happen a lot is people dropping the article a. Sometimes I hear people say, I'm data analyst, which is incorrect. I'm a data analyst, or whatever your job is. And the same thing with confusing as and like. Sometimes I hear people use the wrong word. They say something like, I work like a content creator, which is incorrect. I work as a job title. Now, what about explaining your sector, your field in English? There's a couple of options you could use here. I work in the blah 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 sector. For example, I work in the healthcare sector. Or simply, I work in sector. For example, I work in digital marketing. So these expressions can be helpful if you have a complicated job title and it's easier to just tell a person the sector that you work in. To explain who your employer is, say this: I work for, and then the company name. For example, I work for Google. Or if you're self-employed, I work for myself. It's also really common in English to hear people say, I work at a company and not I work for a company. Have you ever noticed that before? For example, you might hear someone say, I work at IKEA. So technically, when you're using that structure, you're emphasizing more the physical location of the company. So you would choose to say, I work at IKEA if, for example, you work in the shops or the offices. Maybe if you were a delivery driver for IKEA, always on the road, you might prefer to say, I work for IKEA. But the reality is a lot of people use the expression, I work at a company, I work for a company, interchangeably to express the same thing. That company is my employer. There's lots of options in our post-pandemic world for where you work. To explain this in English, you could say, I work remotely, meaning at home. I work on site, or I work at the office. Or you might say, I have a hybrid work setup, which means you work both in the office and at home, depending on the day. If you need to talk about your job in English, you might mention your work schedule. Here's how to do that. I work full-time, meaning that you have a complete schedule for the whole day, for the whole week. But I hope you get weekends off. I work part-time. Part-time is a reduced schedule, so less hours than a full-time job. I work a split shift. This is when your schedule is divided into 2 sections and you have a break in the middle. Maybe you work first thing in the morning, you go home, and then you return again later in the afternoon. Then, of course, there's different times that you work. This can be particularly in cases of people like medical staff. For example, I work day shifts, I work night shifts, I work rotating shifts. That's when you alternate between working during the day or working during the night. I work weekend shifts, I work 12-hour shifts, I work too much. Okay, I'm making terrible jokes, so it's time to wrap up. You now know the 5 must-knows to cover the basics when you talk about your job in English. However, there are probably going to be moments where you need to go deeper and explain your job in more detail. So watch my other videos, subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to help you get ready to talk in more detail about your profession in English. I'll see you there.